In December 1993, Captain Yin Ching-feng of the Taiwanese Navy was found washed up on a beach.
After an autopsy, it showed that he actually didn't have any water in his lungs, so he didn't die of drowning. He was killed before he was pushed over.
Yin had uncovered a dark secret buried within one of the largest arms deals in modern history, the Lafayette frigate scandal.
This is one of the craziest cases that I've actually ever come across.
His death led to decades-long investigations, revealing offshore accounts, kickbacks, and suspicious deaths tied to the deal.
French intelligence people started falling out of windows, one in Paris and one in a suburb of Paris.
They were the casualties of a hidden war, a war fought not with weapons but with bribes, offshore accounts, and political influence. The Lafayette scandal was a massive corruption case tied to Taiwan's 1991 purchase of 6 Lafayette-class frigates from the French defense company Thomson CSF, now Thales, for $2.8 billion. To secure the deal, Thomson CSF allegedly paid over $500 million in bribes to Taiwanese officials, including members of the ruling Kuomintang party, while an additional $100 million was funneled to Chinese officials to ensure Beijing's diplomatic silence. But the Lafayette scandal isn't the only case where corruption has tainted billion-dollar arms deals. In Israel, a scandal unfolded that rocketed the country's political and military elite. A case so infamous it became known as Case 3000, or the submarine affair. At the center of it was the procurement of submarines and naval vessels from the German defense giant ThyssenKrupp. The scandal began quietly, but as the investigators started digging, they uncovered a tangled web of corruption. High-ranking officials, including close associates of the then Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, were accused of accepting bribes and manipulating the procurement process. Key figures in the Israeli government allegedly funneled millions through offshore accounts, striking secret deals with ThyssenKrupp representatives. One former naval commander was accused of accepting lavish gifts in exchange for securing the contracts. As the investigation unfolded, it was revealed that Netanyahu himself had approved controversial aspects of the deal, despite the objections of senior defense officials. And yet the submarine affair is just one chapter in a much larger story.
Our own governments are prepared to participate in illegal arms transactions in order to covertly impact on foreign policy.
The list of corruption cases in the business of arms trade goes on, and they are likely taking place more frequently, considering that the industry is booming and it doesn't look like slowing down anytime soon.
We don't apologize for making these systems, making these weapons. The fact is they are incredibly effective in deterring and dealing with the threat that the Ukrainians are seeing today. Eventually, we'll have to replenish it, and we will see a benefit to the business over the next coming years.
I wanted to take a look at this trend to understand more about an industry that does a great job of concealing its tactics. What I found was extremely concerning. Data from the Stockholm International Peace Research Institute shows that global arms transfers have increased by around 10% over the past decade, and they're expected to keep climbing in the coming years. Experts warn that this industry's growth can destabilize conflict regions further.
When you look at global affairs today, and also in the context of arms trade, what is something that concerns you?
The number of conflicts. We're up to Cold War levels of conflict in the world. The number of people being killed. Nowadays, the arms trade is, back to being a foreign policy instrument.
For decades, European nations relied on NATO and the US for security, but Russia's invasion shattered that illusion. Suddenly, Europe was forced to rearm at an unprecedented scale. Take Germany, for example. In 2022, Chancellor Olaf Scholz announced a $100 billion defense fund, the largest military investment Germany has made since the end of World War II. This money will go toward upgrading its military, including buying 35 F-35 jets. And then there is Poland, which has become one of NATO's biggest defense spenders. Warsaw is now pouring over 4% of its GDP into its military, a level unheard of in modern Europe. It has purchased Abrams tanks and HIMARS missile systems from the United States. NATO's 2% defense spending target has gone from a distant goal to a reality. France, meanwhile, is doubling down on its defense exports, selling Rafale fighter jets with ramping up production of advanced missile defense systems. For Europe, defense contractors like Rheinmetall Thales, and BAE Systems, this is a gold rush. Rheinmetall, Germany's largest arms manufacturer, has seen its stock value soar, driven by orders for Leopard tanks and artillery shells. Across the channel, BAE Systems is cashing in on Britain's military buildup, while France's Thales continues to secure multi-billion-dollar missile contracts. However, Europe's spending spree hasn't just benefited European companies. American defense giants like Lockheed Martin, Raytheon, and Northrop Grumman are dominating the market. They're supplying Europe with advanced systems from F-35 jets to Patriot missile defense systems. In many ways, Europe's rearmament is also securing American profits.
And we are doing everything we can as the United States, working around the clock to deliver our own weapons, organizing and coordinating the delivery of weapons from many other countries.
For defense contractors, this isn't just business, it's a boom.
Navy blue color that says 96.15%. That's how S&P 500 has done from 2000 till today. General Dynamics, the stock, has gone up 548%. Raytheon, 574. Boeing, 736%. Northrop Grumman, 1,160%. And last but not least, all the way at the top, Lockheed Martin, 1,510%.
Military manufacturers are riding a wave of demand, fueled by fear, geopolitics, and rising tensions.
We're on the verge of World War III. This is the most dangerous time since World War II.
But this raises a critical question. Is Europe building a safer future, or are we heading into a new arms race? While politicians talk about defense and security, the human cost is clear. In Ukraine, entire cities have been flattened and millions of civilians displaced. Across Africa and the Middle East, weapons supplied to allies often end up in the hands of rebels, militias, and extremist groups. The pattern is familiar. Weapons sold with the promise of stability often fuel more chaos. And now, the future of warfare is shifting. Beyond traditional weapons, the arms trade is embracing cutting-edge technologies like AI and robotics.
China's military has released this video of a four-legged robot marching through a field with an automatic rifle mounted on its back. The Chinese state broadcaster calls it the newest member of China's urban combat operations.
Meanwhile, both the United States and China are racing to perfect drone swarms. Hundreds of AI-powered drones that can overwhelm enemy defenses and coordinated attacks. Defense companies like Lockheed Martin, Thales, and Northrop Grumman are at the forefront of this technology, investing billions to stay ahead. But with no international regulations on autonomous weapons, the risks are terrifying. What happens when machines, not humans, decide who lives and who dies? Are we moving toward a safer world, or one where war becomes even harder to control? The war in Ukraine has turned Europe into a massive market for weapons. Billions are being spent, profits are soaring, and defense companies are thriving. But history has taught us that when nations rearm at this scale, it often leads to more conflict, not less. The question we need to ask ourselves is simple. Who really benefits from this boom, and at what cost? If you enjoyed this documentary, please subscribe. It helps grow the channel.
Build on it. We still on it.